Back in Power BI, we continue to learn the basics of DAX, and today we are going to take a look at the introduction to the date and time function capabilities in Power BI. We are going to include a link to a model, a Power BI model that you can download and follow along. We're going to take a look at how to work with and use the day function, the month, the quarter, the year, today, also the date difference, and the calendar and week number. Just a few of the DAX functions for the date, and you can use these for time intelligence, you can use these for other filters, and you can also just start to work with the data and use some of these as slicers as well. So we're going to show you how to use these once you have these columns set up and these DAX functions. Date and time intelligence functions on your intro to DAX, date, and time intelligence. Let's go to Power BI. Back in Power BI, we continue along with our Introduction to Power BI series. This time around, we are going to take a look at the date time functions. These are some of the most common functions that you're going to use inside Power BI to write DAX. You're going to be creating a lot of columns. The date and formula functions are useful in Power BI because they are the basis for conducting calculations like month over month. You can also figure out monthly calculations, day functions, and they work very similar to a lot of the Excel functions. We're going to talk specifically about 8 functions in this video, including the day function, the month, the quarter, year, today, the date difference, the calendar function, and the week number function. In the description below, there is going to be a link to the starting file. The file is a pizza sales file. It is a simple model. The model will already be set up in your file that you're going to be downloading, and it has orders, order details, pizza dimensions, pizza types, which is another dimension table, and the date table. And we're going to be doing all of our calculations inside the order details. And the order details does include things like order ID, pizza ID, quantity, and order ID. And in the orders table, that is where we have the actual order date of the pizza. So we're going to use those to extract our date time functions, which will allow us then later on, we're going to take some of our measures and we're going to start to use these as slicers and to calculate additional measures. So it's time to learn date and time functions in Power BI. Let's start off with our first function, which is the day function. First function is the day function. In the description below, we will have a link to the file. You can open up the file and go to the table view and select the orders table. There's 5 tables: the date table, the order details, the orders, pizza types, and pizzas. We are going to work out of the orders table because we have a date that the pizza was ordered, and we are going to extract our first DAX formula for time intelligence, for the date time formulas, are going to be a new column. We are going to select Table Tools, select New Column, and we are going to call this Day Example. And we are going to write the DAX formula. We're going to hit Alt, Shift, Enter to create a new line. And the syntax is going to be day. And if you look at your IntelliSense, the day returns a number from 1 to 31 representing the day of the month. So it's asking for a date. And the date that we're going to provide it, we're going to hit Shift Enter, and we're going to format our DAX. It's going to be from the orders table, and we have the orders date, where it's going to pull the day information from. Shift Enter to create a new line, backspace to close out the day function. Inside your orders table, you will see the day example column. And here in the orders table, you see the day of the month that the pizza was ordered has been extracted. So this pizza was ordered on January 1 of 2015, and the day function pulls out the 1. This pizza was ordered on January 2nd, and it pulls out a 2 for the day function. Since there's maximum of 31 days in the month, all of the different days should be 1 through 31 should be the options that we have available. So that is the day function. It is the day, and then you're going to select the date column, then you close it out, and it's going to create the new column. The next function we're going to take a look at is the month function. The month function is going to capture the month that the pizza was ordered. Again, in the orders table, we are going to select a new column. The name of the column is going to be the month example, is going to be the name of the function. And for date time, it's very similar. It's going to require the syntax is going to need a date column, and the function is the month function. The month function requires just one parameter, which is the date. We're going to hit Shift Enter. Then we're going to bring in the order date. The order date is that date function. Shift Enter, close out the function of the month, hit Enter, and that'll bring in the month. Now there's 12 months in a year. Your months should be 1 through 12. And for January, that is month number 1. February is month number 2. You're creating these calculations line by line with each entry in the row by row example because we're creating new columns. And once we create these 8 different functions, we're going to show you how you can use them in slicers and visualize some other measures that are already created in the file that you can download below. Function number 3 is going to be the quarter function. The quarter function works similar to the day and the month function, where we're pulling from a date column. We're still using the orders table. You can download the file, the beginning file, and follow along in the description below. We are going to create a new column. And the syntax is going to be quarter example will be the name of the column. The syntax is quarter, and it's asking for a date. Now the date is going to be from the order date table. All we need to do then is hit Shift Enter, backspace, and close out the formula. That'll create the quarter. There are 4 quarters in a year. Your quarter examples will be 1, 2, 3, or 4, and it starts with January, February, and March is quarter 1. So anything with January, February, and March will be quarter example number 1. So on the right-hand side in our data pane, on our orders table, you see we have the day example, the month example, and the quarter example. We have created 3 of the 8 functions. The next function is going to be the year example. The 4th function is the year function. So far, we've pulled the day out of the order date, the month, and the quarter. Next, we want to pull the year. And whenever you're working with sales tables, or if you're working with marketing data and you want to extract the year, you can start to do a line chart and you can start to calculate some of your sales or slice some of your sales by the year. The syntax, again, we are going to be in the orders table. We're going to create a new column. We're going to be calling this one the year example. And the syntax is similar for all of these. It requires just the function, which in this case is the year, and your IntelliSense will bring it up just after typing in Y. So you'll bring in the year. It's asking for a date, and the date is going to be from the order date table. The order date table, and then you're going to close it out with the right parenthesis, and now you've got your year. This will bring in the year, and this pizza sales table only has 1 year, which is 2015, and that, when you go down to the filter function, you will see just 2015. So all the rows from this table, from the orders table, there's 21,000 rows. All of the pizzas were ordered in 1 year. So you can see, and again, if you wanted to format any of these columns, we are in the year example. The name of the measure is up here, the year example. The data type is a whole number. You could change that to a text, and then the format you will determine. And now we have 4 different date time functions: day, month, quarter, and year. The next function is going to be the today function. Date and time functions in Power BI, we have calculated the year, quarter, month, and date. We've extracted those from the pizza order date. The next function is going to be one that you'll use quite often. It is what is called the now or today function. We're going to use the today function. We're going to create a new column. And what this does is uses the current date. So whatever day you're doing this, following along with this video, we are going to name the function. So it's going to be the today function. And the syntax is today. And it just requires, that's it, just a left and right parentheses, because it will take the actual day that you are entering this function, and whatever day you open up this file, that will be the today result. I'm recording this video on January the 12th of 2024. And the today function is going to be a date and time. We are going to shorten this up to just a short date. So it says January 12th, 2024. Whatever date that you're working with the today function will be the date that shows up here. But now that you have a today function, we can move and create the next function, which is the date difference, which will allow us to calculate the difference between the day today and the date the pizza was ordered by using the date different function. Date time functions, an introduction. We've already taken a look at the day, month, quarter, and year example. We just calculated the today function, which calculates the day, the current date. So whenever you open up your file and it has a date function, the current date that it is going to appear in that column. And we are now going to use the date difference because we are going to use a calculation from the today function from the date that the pizza was ordered to calculate our next function. So we're going to continue along in our column tools. We are going to create a new column inside the orders table. Make sure we're going to use our IntelliSense, which is the helpful hints for the functions. The Datediff example is going to be the name. We are going to bring in the Datediff. Now the Datediff, this is your IntelliSense. If you click on the right arrow, it returns the number of units specified in intervals between the two input dates. So it's going to be asking for two input dates, and then we get to determine the time interval. If you hit tab, the first date is going to be today's date. Again, I'm recording the video on January 12th, 2024. So we are going to bring in from the orders table, the today function. The second date is going to be the date of the pizza order, which is the order date. Now we want to determine the interval. And you could have this be number of days. You could have this be hours, minutes, weeks, or years. So this first pizza was ordered on January 1, 2015. If I select day and close it out with the right parentheses, this will bring in the number of days between January 12th, 2024 and January 1 of 2015. 3,298 days is the difference. If we go back and we want to bring in the number of years, we can select years, close it out, and now it'll bring in 9 years. So the interval is going to be what you want it to be. And we've got all those different options. We're going to go back to days and select that, and that'll bring up the number of days difference between the two date functions. So that is the date difference. You'll use a lot of times the difference between the shipping date and the order date and the delivery date if you're working with e-commerce sales and different sales fields. That is our sixth function. The next function is going to be the calendar function, and this is another one that you'll use quite often if you're working with dates in Power BI. So far, the first 6 functions we've created have all been the new column feature in Power BI. The calendar function is going to be from a new table. A lot of times you're going to create calendar tables or date tables to help with your date time intelligence and your date fields that you're going to want to slice some of your different sales and data by. So for the calendar function, once you create that new table, the syntax is very similar. We're going to call this calendar example, and we're simply going to use the calendar, which if you use your IntelliSense again, it returns a table with one column of all the dates between the start date and the end date. So this is going to ask for 2 parameters, a start date and an end date. If you hit tab, it's going to ask you in IntelliSense for the start date. So we're going to use 2024. The syntax is calendar. Then it requires the date. So you're going to add the date. Now it's going to ask for the year, the month, and the date. We're going to go with 2024, 01, and the day is going to be 01. Then you're going to close it out. Now you're going to add in the end date. And the end date is going to be 2024. Month number 1, and 2020. Once you add in the date function, you're going to bring in 2024 for the year. The month is going to be 12, and the day is going to be the 31st, the final day of the year. So that is the calendar table. Now what it's going to do is produce a table that has every date of the year from January the 1st through December 31st of 2024. And this is going to be a new table. So you'll see it's got 366 rows because of the leap year. And you will see it is going to be formatted initially as the date time. And you can show this as a short date. And the table on the right-hand side, you now have a 6 table. This one is called the calendar example table. The final function we're going to show you is the week number function. That one is going to allow you to calculate sales or orders or returns by the week number in a year. The final function for the date time functions is going to be the week number. We are back in the orders table. We are going to create a new column. There's 52 and a half weeks in a year, so the week number example is going to be the syntax, the name of the new calculated column. We are going to bring up the Weeknum function, and the IntelliSense says it returns the week number in the year, and all it's going to ask for is the order date. And then you just need to close it out and it will bring up the week number between 1 and 53. That is the number of weeks in a year. Now we have calculated the day, the month, the quarter, the year, the today function. The day is different, and the week number function. We've also added in a new table that has the 2024 dates. Next, we are going to show you how to use these new calculated columns that you have created to help visualize and slice your data. We've created our 8 date time functions. Next, we are going to go to the report view. We are going to create a card visual. In the file that you can download, I already have some measures created, and we're going to start off with total sales. So we have 817,000 total sales. Now that we've created those columns, we can select a slicer and bring in some of our different measures and columns and see how our sales were calculated. So we're going to bring in the quarter to the slicer. Under the slicer settings, we are going to select the vertical list. So now we can see in quarter number 1, we had 205,000 in sales. In quarter number 2, we had 208,000 in sales. And in quarter number 4, 199,000 in sales. We'll bring in another slicer. First, we'll break another card. And inside this card, we're going to take a look at the total orders. So we're going to go up to our data, and we've got a measure called total orders. So we know we have 5,118 total orders. We're going to create a new slicer, and we'll bring in our months. So for our months, we're going to go to our slicer settings and use the vertical list. We'll unselect the quarter example. And now we have months 1 through 12. So now we can see in January, we had 1,845 orders, and you'll see that up here, that is in quarter number 1. When you use month number 2 for February, that'll be 1,685 orders and 65,000 in sales. And now we can look at month number 3. So with these different columns that you've created, now you can take a deeper dive into your analysis, and you can start to set up your line charts, you can set up slicers, and you can start to use these columns in other tables in your DAX formulas. So that is a look at time and date functions. We use the day function, the month function, the quarter function, year, today, date difference, calendar, and week number inside Power BI on the introduction to date time functions.